Welcome back to the channel. We're finally back. I missed you guys. Hopefully you guys didn't miss me too much. But today, what the hell are we talking about today? We have a discussion. Very exciting. This is going to be a first on the Gundam TCG. I actually want to talk about the current situation. The GD05 situation is crazy. Absolutely nuts. You probably can't find it anymore. Maybe you were able to find it on release date and now you can't. And you're seeing it for almost $200. What the hell is going on, right? What makes this, the main question of today's video, hopefully we will be able to answer is, what makes this double the price of this? What the hell is going on? So before we even get into that, we have to talk about the pre-GD05 times, right? Obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about GD01 because GD01 is its own little world. It's its own little exception. And I guess I can touch upon why. GD01 is so expensive, in my opinion, mostly because of supply issue. Bandai just didn't really print enough. And why is that the case, right? Obviously, Gundam is a pretty big IP, but the reality is that Gundam isn't that big in the West. Isn't as big, or maybe that's the wrong wording, that big, but at least as big, right, as it is in Japan. In Japan, obviously, it's a massive powerhouse, but in the West, it's just not as popular, right? And then B, you also have to consider that as a business, it is way better to underprint. Just obviously talking as a business, right? It is way better to underprint than overprint when it's your first set, because you can always reprint, you can always release more waves, you can always release more product, right? Versus overprinting, which is kind of what happened with, in my opinion, why they were so scared of printing a lot of GD01. What happened with Battle Spirit Saga, right? Battle Spirit Saga was this IP that Bandai tried to launch in the West twice, ended up dying twice. The second time, very unceremoniously. I don't even think it lasted 2 years. Pretty sad to think about, but what ended up killing Battle Spirit Saga in short, I actually plan to make a video about this, so definitely stay tuned if you're interested in that. But what ended up killing it in short was essentially overproduction of the first two sets, right? Obviously, a bunch of other things, but this was a huge driver. Why? Because they ended up making so much of the first two sets without that proven demand that it ended up rotting in shelves, right? To the point where it rotted to $20. 24 packs. Oh, this one doesn't say 24 packs. Oh, yeah, it does. 24 packs for $15 to $20. That is under $1 a pack. It was obviously an embarrassment for Bandai. Obviously, for the IP, they didn't want that to happen, right? Especially Gundam is such a beloved IP to them because they actually own it. It's not like a One Piece situation where they have to license it. In this case, it is their IP, right? So they obviously want to be careful with it. And in my opinion, that is why this one is so damn expensive. Maybe I can do another video about it, maybe going a little bit more into detail, but that is why I wanted to cover my bases, because GD01, again, it's in its own little world. It's very different to the situation from GD02 all the way to GD05, right? So what is the situation from GD02 all the way to GD05? We're still in that, to GD04, I guess would be more appropriate. We're still in that pre-GD05 timeline. So go with me. We're in GD02. GD02 comes out. Obviously, it's never going to be as hyped as GD01. Didn't have as much power, didn't have as much relevance, didn't have as much collector interest, all that good shit. Obviously, the first set of any TCG is going to drive a lot of people, a lot of interest, right? And the second one comes out, obviously interest isn't as high, and it ends up following the trend that we will see going forward, right? From sets GD02, GD03, GD04, and EBO1. This is the trend that we're going to see. The set comes out around MSRP. You can find it pretty much damn near anywhere. Pre-sale, always a little bit crazy. You can usually ignore that for now. And then we have the release date, which is again around MSRP. And then it actually starts going down because obviously more people start getting their cards, more people start getting their alt-arts, demand starts to go down a little bit, and prices start to come down. So the box begins to come down with the singles, right? That's at least what used to happen, right? GD02, again, all the way to GD04, including EBO1. This is what we used to see. And prices used to get so low. I guess I can just discuss how much I paid for each of these. I did pay, hell, even I couldn't find a GD01 for MSRP, believe it or not. I paid $160 for this one shipped. So it wasn't too bad, I guess. This one I got for $90 shipped. So again, these ended up dropping to, I believe, to like 80 to 85. God damn it, I forgot my GD03, whatever. GD03 I got for 105, GD04 for 70, and EBO1 I got for 115. So again, very either insane deals, again, 70, 90, or very close to MSRP, right? 105, 115. That's how it used to be, and that's how I'm guessing most of you have had that experience, right? You've probably been able to find it. You probably don't even we're not even thinking about pre-ordering because again, pre-sales used to be kind of silly prices and there was not much of a point, right? You knew that you were going to be able to find product in shelves and at MSRP, maybe even lower, right? Pretty cool, pretty good times, but unfortunately, GD05 comes out. And if you were one of those people who were trying to pre-order GD05, you probably noticed a little bit of something. It was kind of hard to find. A lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people who maybe were not even into Gundam were talking about GD05. Why was GD05 so anticipated, right? In comparison to pretty much every other set. And no other set were you struggling to find pre-orders for MSRP. Again, sometimes even under. But this one, you did. Why is that the case? Why was this set coming in with so much hype, right? Well, the reason is actually an outside factor, and it comes in the form of One Piece. I swear I have a reason to show it. I'm not just putting it here for a random reason or anything. The reason is OP05. What is so special about OP05? We have to look at how One Piece does the rarities really fast. In Gundam, you have your LR++, right? Obviously, this is your one every 2-3 cases. This is what we're going to be looking at to compare to the manga. In Gundam, you've always had two, right? In GD01, you have two. In GD04, you have two that you're chasing. In One Piece, it's actually just one manga. But realistically speaking, these are the same rarity, right? I just wanted to point out that these two have the same thing. And what's special about OP05 is that it's an anniversary set, obviously OP05, GD05. Obviously, both are anniversary sets. And what Bandai ended up doing is juicing it up. Instead of just one manga, the one manga that everyone was chasing, they gave us 3 mangas. And they also gave us a signed by Oda Luffy. This were absolute, especially the Gear 5 Luffy and the Oda, these went absolutely insane. And these became obviously instant chases. People were going crazy, especially the Gear 5 Luffy. Absolutely nuts, right? They ended up making the anniversary sets feel very special, feel very loaded, making people who are not even into One Piece come into One Piece, right? So what ends up happening is people start hypothesizing, well, if they juiced up OP05, they probably will juice up GD05 as well. And what ends up happening? You can't find the pre-orders. That's why it was so hyped up even before release, right? That's why in this case, even in pre-sale prices, I will show the chart right here. You can see how many sell per day. Even in pre-sale prices, this one was actually selling decently well. This box was actually selling even before release date, right? We're going to see the release date period right here. It was selling 100+ boxes. This is what some TCGs sold on release day, by the way. Their new sets. This was selling that on pre-sale. So people were willing to pay these prices because this was so hyped up because of One Piece history. And did Bandai end up living up to that, right? That's obviously the question. We're now at GD05 release. Yes. And even before then, they started hyping it up. The moment they started hyping it up, it was over, right? They started saying things like, oh, the first anniversary set, it's gonna be very special. And immediately that confirmed to everyone, the speculators, the collectors, the players, everyone, that this set was gonna be very sought after. So that created a problem. Before you only had players and collectors really going after Gundam, right? Now you had speculators, now you had people who are holding long-term, now you had rip and shippers, now you had a myriad of people who just were not into Gundam before trying to secure product. And that's what ended up happening. That's the big difference, in my opinion, between these two. GD01 is so expensive because there never was enough supply. GD05 is so damn expensive because of unprecedented demand. I'm not just pulling this out of my ass, by the way. Check this out. On release day, these prices did not come down to MSRP. These prices were still high. I don't think they ever dropped from 160, by the way. It sold 430+ boxes. GD05 did. I'm sorry, that's just absolutely fucking crazy. Like, I don't think you guys understand just how much of a big deal that is. That is a big player numbers, right? Like, let's look at Lorcana. Screw it. Let's look at Lorcana. Decently, I'm not saying it's one of the big 3. I'm not saying that. I'm not claiming that. But it's a pretty big game, especially right now. It has a lot of hype right now. How many did Attack of the Vine, their latest set, sell on release day? 180, 200, give or take. What about on pre-sale? I know some of you are going to say, well, Lorcana has pre-sale, so they probably sold more on pre-sale, around 200 as well. These numbers are just something that I don't think Bandai could have foreseen. I don't think anyone could have seen coming, right? So in my opinion, that is why this is so expensive, because of low supply, and this one because of demand. That is the big difference between these two. But okay, what is the difference between these two then? How did Bandai juice this one up, right? Obviously, we talked about OP05. How did they juice it up, and how is this so expensive? Well, instead, first of all, before we even get to the LR plus, let's actually get to the other stuff. First of all, we have insane alt arts. Let's appreciate the alt arts. As always, Gundam art, Gundam, it reminds me of Digimon a lot, where it's just so damn stunning, where they can really just go all out, right? I love this. I'm so hopeful. I'm so hopeful that for Naruto they can just go all out, similar to Gundam or Digimon. I just love the art for these two games, honestly, even more so than One Piece. I know that might get me crucified, god damn it, but I just love the art of these two games, and it's just absolutely insane. And then we obviously have the SPs. Let's actually talk. Let's get down to business. We have the SPs. Obviously, you've had SPs since God damn it again. I should have really brought my GD03. We've had SPs since GD03, but what makes GD05 again? We haven't even talked about what makes it loaded. Let's actually talk about what separates this from this. In this set, they introduced SP resources, and you might say, "Come on, what's the big deal about that?" Unfortunately, it appears that you only get one per case. So it's not good. It appears that the ratio is 2 SPs plus 1 resource per case. And I believe there's like 5 or 6 resources, give or take. So that makes them very hard to pull, which means it makes them very expensive, which means it makes them very chaseable. I believe the most expensive one is, I believe, over $600. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely stacked. And how about we get to the juice? I know, waiter, my lobster is too buttery, all that, my steak is too juicy, all that stuff. We're still not even done. We still have the LR plus pluses. Did they just give us 4 LR plus pluses? Did they just double it? Just screw it, double it, and give it to the next one? No. They ended up giving us 5 LR plus plus.
Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
One for each color. And each of these, well, not all of them, I'll be honest. I'm not the biggest fan of two or three of these, but these are definitely just obviously gonna be the chase, right? Obviously, even if I'm personally not the biggest fan of some of these, I personally prefer the alt arts and the SPs over these. But obviously, just because of the ratio, again, we talked about how these are 1 per every 2 to 3 cases, right? It is one of those pools that unfortunately is just so damn rare that it's just one of those, hey, maybe it'll happen. You just can't factor in too much, right? You just can't hope to pull it. You're always gonna be disappointed. But not only you have to factor that in, that you have to pull an LR plus plus, now you have to split it in 5. So that obviously means, again, as with the SPs, that you're going to have to be very lucky to pull the specific one you want, aka is going to be very expensive. So as we see, the cheapest LR plus plus is now going for over $1,000, I think like $1,200. What the hell? Obviously, I don't know, again, how many of you guys have been, or how long have you guys been into Gundam, or how many of you guys have been in the start, but LR plus pluses did not used to sell for over $1,000 until very recently, right? This is a very recent thing. So to me, it is very, very insane to see. Obviously, I'm guessing for some of you guys, this might be the norm if you're newer, but this did not used to be the norm, right? These LR plus pluses, check this out, right? I'll show you guys the Steel Requiem ones and the Dual Impact one. These used to sell, believe it or not, for around $200 to $400. I believe let's trim that down range, right? From $250 to $400. That's how much they used to sell. And now you have the least for $1,200, and the highest one being over $3,000 with confirmed sales, right? Obviously, you can list them for $100,000. Doesn't mean anything, but I'm talking confirmed sales. That is why this box is absolutely stacked, not just with value, not just with, obviously, oh, I didn't even talk about this, but just icing on the cake, I guess. This box is also stacked with meta playability value, meaning, because obviously, I don't know, again, how many of you guys been with Gundam, but we did used to have this problem where aggro just used to dominate. Essentially, I used to play Mobile Suit Arena, and what I used to do would essentially be ignore the board and just go for shields, right? Obviously, that's not very interactive. That's not very fun. and Bandai ended up doing an insane ban list, ended up essentially, I don't know if killing it, I don't know if it's fully dead, but really limiting aggro, right? They really wanted to push these other decks, and obviously GD05, and GD05 ended up having a bunch of crazy stuff. I think Strike Freedom is absolutely crazy, and it's going absolutely nuts. Just insane stuff, right? So not only do you have, again, players, not only do you have collectors, not only do you have insane, obviously, people who are hoarding cases of this, rip and shippers, you have obviously stores getting in on this. You have all this insane demand because this box is so damn stacked. Bandai really hit it out of the park on this one, which unfortunately obviously does mean very high prices for us. But hopefully that answered the question. Hopefully that settles it.